In a moment, but now full steam ahead for the Trump team in finding the next nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court, which brings us to our newsroom news feed. Let's go.
I'm going back to Washington, and we're going to pick ourselves one great United States Supreme Court justice. Justice Kennedy, really a great person, great man. I'm so honored that he decided to do this during our term. And I think that showed confidence in us. When I ran for president, I started hearing, outside of obviously defense and all of that, the most important decision a president can make is the picking of United States Supreme Court justices, if you're lucky enough to do that. We had a fantastic choice with Justice Gorsuch. Very proud of it, doing a fantastic job. And we're going to try and do just as good. So we're going to start working on that process. We've already started. And hopefully we're going to make you very proud.
Let's get to it now with our headliner, Kellyanne Conway, live from the North Lawn. Senior Counsel of the President joins us now from the White House. And Kellyanne, good morning and welcome back. It's a Friday, and you're in the hot seat here, okay? So let's get to the Supreme Court first. What is the state of the process? If there is not yet a short list of nominees, where's the president's head on this?
Well, you saw just last night the president returned from a two-day trip out meeting with Americans and came here and met with senators from both parties because it is the Senate's job constitutionally to advise and consent the president on such matters, and the president is taking into account their advice. At the same time, it will be a presidential decision. This president, owing back to the campaign for 2 straight years now, Bill, has been very transparent and therefore accountable with respect to the type of person and indeed the specific individuals he would consider to put on the nation's highest court. Yes, as you just mentioned, he elevated Justice Neil Gorsuch, who's been an outstanding jurist in his first term and a half on the Supreme Court. But look also at what the president has done in the U.S. Circuit Courts. There are 21 confirmed judges on the U.S. Circuit Courts. 1 out of 8 U.S. Circuit judges right now is a Trump appointee. And so we already see the way the president approaches this. I think Neil Gorsuch in his confirmation hearings put it best when it came to some of these hot-button issues like abortion, where he said, it's settled precedent, and it's not my job, it's not relevant whether I like a particular precedent or don't. And I know people on the other side who are really losing in every turn these days, politically, then practically, they are going to try to make this about 1 or 2 issues. We know that the Supreme Court covers any number of issues under the Constitution in a given term. Just this past week and last week, they decided cases on the impropriety of using union dues, compelling people to use them for political purposes. Obviously, they ruled in the president's favor on the travel ban. They have released opinions very recently on internet taxes. So the court is very active on a breadth of issues. This president says he will choose from that list, and he's been very clear in his appointments, the type of jurists that he likes, a constitutionalist.
Does he make a decision before the summit with Vladimir Putin in 2.5 weeks?
Well, he may. I don't think that the timeline has anything to do with a summit. This is a president, as we all know, is the original and unbelievably peripatetic multitasker. He does many different things at a given day, moment, and week. I think the sheer volume and velocity of the way he works is mind-numbing to many people. I find it to be a privilege. So I don't think that a timeline is going to be according to a summit, so much as the president takes very seriously a Supreme Court vacancy and knows that we should move with some dispatch in filling that vacancy.
Okay,
and
we'll put that down as a maybe then, based on the timeline for July 16th.
Well, he's a guy who moves with alacrity on everything, as you know.
So maybe sooner.
Maybe sooner.
Maybe sooner.
But I think that person could be confirmed this year. Why not?
Okay.
That being said, Kellyanne, this upcoming summit with the president and Vladimir Putin, what does President Trump, what is he heading into that summit hoping to accomplish and get done?
The president has made very clear a couple of things. One is to improve relations with countries and its leaders where we can, where it makes sense for the United States of America and for peace-loving people everywhere, to improve relationships. And this president followed the same model that he did with the Singapore summit, and Mr. Kim with Russia, meaning he sent over one of his top diplomats, one of his top security officials. In the case of North Korea, Secretary Pompeo. In the case of Russia, NSC Director, National Security Advisor, Ambassador John Bolton. And that person goes over there and lays the groundwork. We got other people working on logistics. And this president has said from the beginning that he is willing to talk to leaders when it is in the best interest of America. If Russia and the United States of America can work on national security issues together, the president will do that. But at the same time, this president has had no reluctance whatsoever to push back when he has felt it is appropriate.
And there are
expelling Russian
right.
officials,
if I could
sanctioning,
just jump in on that. Yeah,
pushing back on Assad. And I just want to say one more thing. You had President Obama whispering in a hot mic that he would have more flexibility after the next election. You have this president as transparent as can be on wanting to go over there and sit down. That's a much better way to be president.
But to have a summit like this, you got to get some sort of win-win on each side. And what is the win-win for Vladimir Putin? What is the win-win for President Trump? Is it some sort of deal on Syria? Is that where the ground can move?
Well, the win-win is in having the conversation to begin with, but another win would be the president's vision with respect to Syria. This president has pushed back on Assad twice when he's gassed his own people with the support of Russia. Continuing the conversation about a nuclear-capable North Korea, a nuclear-capable Iran. I mean, this president's been so active around the globe to not involve Russia in some of these conversations. And I'm sure, because this is what the media will say too, is what are you talking about with respect to interference in elections? Everything's on the table. You know, when Mr. Putin and President Trump met the last time, that particular one-on-one meeting lasted much longer than, quote, people anticipated. I don't know why they were anticipating a certain timeline. And it covered an array of topics, and you can expect that to happen again.
Meanwhile, what a hearing that was yesterday, Kellyanne. Christopher Wray, Rod Rosenstein, the heads of the FBI and the DOJ, sat in a hearing room and faced a grilling from Republican lawmakers. Was the president able to witness a few of those exchanges? What were his thoughts when he looked at really the anger and frustration that we continue to see, in this case from House Republicans, over lack of documents getting handed over and lack of, quite frankly, questions getting answered?
Well, again, you see the transparency and accountability of the process. That was a televised briefing. Folks are under oath when they're answering those questions. And Director Wray and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein made clear that they feel they are complying with the request. Some of the Republicans and others disagree. The House obviously passed a bill yesterday, or passed a bill, and
a resolution, yeah.
A resolution, yeah. Excuse me. And the fact is that people do. It is true that many Americans are tiring with the length of the process here. That is absolutely true. If you look at the polls, the number of people who are saying that the investigation is a good idea, or has it gone on too long, is it interfering with other things? Fortunately, the President of the United States does not allow it to interfere with his major duties, which is to be the chief economic steward of our nation's economy. It could not be doing any better than it is. We're having this 6-month Tax Cut and Jobs Act anniversary.
Let's get to that in a moment.
Here today, and frankly,
Benghazi went on for 2.5 years, and I know Republicans are frustrated.
I'm sorry, Bill, but I find that comparison.
No problem. I'll let you answer that. Let me ask you a specific question. I know the president was traveling to Wisconsin yesterday. Did he watch the hearing? Did he watch any of it, Kellyanne?
Well, he can access clips anytime he wants, and he's aware, he's fully briefed on everything of that nature. He certainly knows that, he certainly knew that the hearing was taking place. He certainly knows some of the highlights, if not the specifics. And everybody's been playing their choice and their chosen and curated clips from the last day. So I think the president could not be more clear. He tweets about it and puts it on social media often. He talks about it freely often, that he believes this is a witch hunt and that there is no collusion. He goes back to what we were promised at the very beginning of this, which is that this changed votes and he wasn't duly elected. That's all a load of bunk, and everybody knows it. He was duly and democratically elected, and he doesn't let any of it get in his way of presiding over the strongest economy in generations, if not our lifetimes, if not ever, and continuing to meet with leaders here in America, but across the globe and at different summits to try to bring more peace and prosperity wherever he can.
Chief of Staff, what are the plans there? What is the president actively doing right now as far as looking for a replacement?
I don't understand these stories in that the media is sort of like ants in a sugar cube, always go and focus on one thing. It seems to come up every month or 2 or 3 months. If I went back and I looked at a bunch of inquiries from February, from December, and now from June, they all say the same thing. I try not to respond to them to allow the press shop and others to do that. But here you got responses directly from the president and from our chief of staff, John Kelly, yesterday that it's all news to them.
So
and
General Kelly,
we have a
General
chief of staff.
Kelly is staying,
I'm delighted
is that right?
I'm sorry that this is popping out. I'm delighted to serve under Chief of Staff Kelly, and I work with whomever the president asks me to work with here in the West Wing and across his administration. But I know that it's easier and maybe more fun for folks to play the parlor game and learning the intricacies of policy, since again stuff goes so quickly here. But I guess eventually everybody's going to leave it. Eventually everybody who said people are going to leave will be right.
Now,
but it's a little bit odd for that to dominate the coverage.
I know the earpiece fell out. Just to be specific about it, General Kelly is staying. Is that what you're saying?
As far as I know, General Kelly wants to stay, and he is staying. He hasn't said anything differently to me.
Okay.
And I come here to work every day with the team that the president has asked us all to work with, and we do. I find this place to be much more streamlined and much more sophisticated and running in a very good way a year and a half into the presidency. And we don't run around wondering who's leaving next, who's going to be forced out. We get to work every day, and there's so much on our plate, as you know, that's just not one of them.
Okay, two more topics we need to get to. You bet. Well, what does the White House have to say, given the shooting in Annapolis just up the road from you?
Well, it's a horrible tragedy. What we're trying to, I think, us being all of America, is piece together that this person, this shooter, this murderer, had some kind of grievance against this paper. Obviously, had filed a lawsuit, lost that lawsuit, and seems to have been very active on social media. Very threatening, it seems to me, and about this paper, and went in yesterday and did what he did. The president expressed his sympathies, continues to be briefed by the FBI and others, and will continue to talk about this as the different facts develop. But obviously, people who go to work every day, innocent Americans, should not have this as an occupational hazard. And I think, as our press secretary made clear last night, an attack on innocent journalists, innocent Americans, an attack on all of us.
What's the president's plans next week? A lot of people, 4th of July week, and he's going to be making a trip out to Montana?
He is. The plan is for him to go to Montana on July 5th. And the day before, the president and the first lady will host, for the second consecutive year, the military families here at a picnic, and then later celebrate America's independence, our 242nd year of our nation's independence, out here on the South Lawn with fireworks display for all to see. And we're very excited because it's a great celebration of our nation's independence, and this president has done a great deal to advance the cause of democracy and freedom, everything from economic freedom to national security and freedom, and our ability to be free and prosperous and
should be a great
secure.
trip. Yeah, you came on to talk about taxes, 6-month anniversary today. What do you think the impact of the tax plan has been on Americans today? Go ahead and sell it.
Excuse me, Bill. It's been very positive. At any metric that you look at, the confidence numbers, historic confidence numbers among consumers, among small business owners, among manufacturers, the job creation, the growth numbers, all the critics saying you can never even get it above 3%, that's fantasy. It's projected to be well above 4%. And I think what it's done, in addition to giving the millions of Americans, hardworking Americans, the bonuses and the raises, it has stimulated growth and a buoyancy and optimism in our economy, that people feel free to move around in the job market. 6.7 million available jobs now. It outpaces the number of actual job seekers. So that gives people freedom to think about their next job or their next career move. Also, the repatriation, a word that Americans really should learn more handily, because you're going to hear a lot of it, Bill and Sandra. Repatriation of $300 billion so far. That was wealth parked legally overseas that now these companies can bring back. The corporations that people said they're not going to invest, they're investing in their workplace, they're investing in their workforce. And also you see this child care tax credit. People feel like they can make more free decisions. I think the number one byproduct of tax cuts is freedom, is individual freedom and liberty.
Hey, listen, thanks for being here today. We covered a lot of ground, and have a great weekend. Happy July 4th to you and everybody at the White House.
All the best to you. Happy birthday, America.
Thank you. Thanks, Kellyanne.